Can you all see the screen?
Yeah.
Okay, so good afternoon, everybody. Uh, Myself and Vikram today will go into the next set. So I do not know if there are any queries. We could take them up with regards to last time's topic on portals. I do not know whether you've had any time to relook or ponder over or look at cases on portals specifically, specifically in a manner whereby if there are any interest or if there is any query or any particular project you thought you need to interact with us or inform us, then I think we should use this class to be in a position to do that. But beyond that, but beyond that, today we'll get into another very interesting one of my favorite topics is folded plate. And I think this first set of diagrams actually explains what we are actually talking about in some sense is that we all know that a plate has very limited rigidity in it, and should we be in a position to create folds in the shorter span, yeah, we in a position to be able to load it, yeah, but exceeding loads also deforms such folds, and hence it becomes necessary to be able to strengthen the ends, yeah, strengthen the ends of such an arrangement, thereby uh, thereby we have two components in the arrangement of a folded plate, that is the folded plate and the diaphragm beam. So at the ends, what you see as a stiffener beam, in order to, and you can see the difference in its sense. You're seeing that you can very clearly see that the load, there is an increase in load should you be in a position to strengthen or stiffen the ends, that is there very clearly. Yeah. Um, we have all, yeah, these, the idea of the folded plate comes in the idea of the shell structure. Today a very extent, what we mean to say is we are looking at being able to create larger surfaces with minimal reinforcement, yeah, unlike portals which were structural members, which were frames, in some sense rigid frames that spanned across. Folded plates are a part of the understanding of shells in that sense, and we'll continue today both as folded plate and shells in a manner to see that how reinforcement is spread over, how minimal reinforcement is spread over such large concrete structures. Yeah, I think we all know that shells require minimal reinforcement in a position to be able to span larger structures, thereby bringing economy as well as being able to deal with in that sense. Yeah, so these comprise largely of inclined plates. Yeah. First of all, it talks about much. So the first of all, it has much lesser steel and concrete. Don't not to forget some shell and folded plate structures go as less as 50 between 50 mm to 75 mm of depth for pretty large spans. Reinforcement comes Reinforcement literally comes down to mesh laid between these concrete things, concrete between this concrete depth that is there, and yeah, and that's how the economy of the structure is being worked with. You largely folded plates work with the inclined plate, the edge plate, which is used to stiffen the wide plate that we spoke about as the diaphragm beam, and stiffeners to carry the load to the supports, yeah, from the plates in line, and columns finally. So it comprises of the folded plate, the diaphragm beam, and then but naturally the position of the column in the longer span or the shorter span, depending on how the format works in the case. So folded plates can be largely classified. The form of the folded plate can further be classified into these folded plates in the linear manner, yeah, or a combination or a combinations of such additions, yeah. So the regular folded plate is can be seen as the gable ended folded plate that is there. But beyond that, you can play with the folds, and it can be understood as a combination of additions that is there. And the same can be used as radial to get as radial folded plates. Okay, folded plate frames further work. The other set is where the folded plates not only work as a roofing system, but also as a wall and roofing system. Means it acts as an entire envelope in that sense, and it 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 the folds work both as vertical as well as horizontal members. That means the folds don't restrict themselves up to the diaphragm beam. The folds go about, I do not know if you can see my cursor, the folds go about to become both walling as well as roofing system, and hence you get a structural system. And this is where perhaps the idea of the two-pinned hinge, the three-pinned hinge, or the idea of the portal also comes along with that of the folded plate. Last time someone did ask a very relevant question about, um, and we are covering that example today of Tagore Hall, of how the folded plate and the portal work together. That's what that you see in this particular category, where the folded plates work as a frame. There, the first category is folded plate acts only as a roof surface. And the third is where the folded plate acts as a special form, yeah, either as a dome, either as a pyramid, thereby imparting rigidity to the entire form, and thereby you have these combinations of such folds. You have tetrahedrons, polyhedrons, tetrahedrons that add here, and the pyramid in all that sense is there. So folded plate can be largely categorized under the understanding of the surface, the frame, and the spatial form. Yeah. Uh, we've seen folded plates varied they can be used in various scales, like we've seen airports, yeah, designed with the idea of the folded plate, spanned along the shorter span, and you can see this conventional idea of the folded plate applied all across infrastructure projects. I'm going to next itself is the infrastructure project that have it. Whereas folded plates can also work for these collapsible buildings that work in times of exhibitions. This prototype to its site can be used uh, for for earth for rehab. Yeah, this particular prototype to the right is used for rehab in case of disasters, be it floods, be it earthquakes, whereby the frames and the material that is used to make the um, is to make the is can collapse to be made into a entire that is retractable and serves the idea of a compact yet retractable structure. Yeah, so that's what we're saying, the principles of folded plate being used from surface as compared to frame in itself. No better example can we see in Mumbai, where a couple of New Bombay railway stations that is there in Juhi Nagar and Sanpada, whereby the folded plate is used. Yeah, we have the idea of the precast folded plate. Yeah, that is put between these diaphragm beams that you see here. If you look clearly, that beams are used as gutter systems for the water to drain off. So these folded plates are not exactly horizontal. Yeah, these are with a slight bend in them, with a slight curve in them, since they are precast. And if you really know that pre-stress structural members can afford to have a certain upward bend, or what would you call that, as a upper thrust is called what? The bend and the so
Okay.
Hogging,
Okay.
upward hog.
Yeah.
What would it be called, Vikram?
Hogging moment, bending moment,
Oh,
and
bending moment and hogging moment. So if you pre-stress them, if you pre-stress or post-stress them, then precast structural members or precast RCC members can afford to have a hogging moment in them. Thereby they have an upward thrust and they create a natural slope, and that's what Sandhya Madam and Ratan Batley Boy's office worked with these idea of using precast folded plates, and these diaphragm beams at the ends were used not only to stiffen the overall structural system and break the folds in it, but also to use to drain out the water via these Y columns. So these Y columns in that sense are drainage systems for the entire rainwater to come down and get into it. So fine example, these are now like 25 years old and yet they serve well in that sense. The if the if you look at, I'm in the comp lab and the amount of disturbance is mind-boggling. So if you look at the if you look at the so to say, if you look at the if you look at the conventional folded plate, that this is the sheet of a conventional folded plate whereby you have the you see you have the folds in the you have the folds in the preferably in the shorter direction. Yeah, you can see how the diaphragm beams are put at its end in order to, yeah, so you look and so these are the diaphragm beams at those corners in order to allow, so you can see the depth of the diaphragm beam there if you can see my cursor particularly. Yeah, that is the depth of the diaphragm beam, thereby holding the folds in between. And usually the problem is that the diaphragm beam actually does not allow us to see the folds in the folded plate die. Yeah, so if you can experience the folds from the interior of the space, but actually if you look from the outside, usually the diaphragm beam is so deep because it encompasses the entire folds within it in order to lend that stiffness to the folded plate, and hence usually you see a thick band around the building whereby the folds are in actually uh, actually so to say concealed in them. And so we will see examples of folded plates whereby the convention is where designers have taken away from the convention whereby whereby the fold whereby the diaphragm beams are offsetted in a manner whereby the folded plates can come to the fore and can lend these structuralist or these brutalist identities to these buildings. Yeah. So first we are looking at a couple of conventional ones. You must be wondering what this kind of detail is. This is what is called as a rocker joint detail, which allows the movement of the beam that sits on top of the column. In that sense, this is the beam, this is the diaphragm beam that sits on top of certain positions of columns that are there, and yeah, that, and you can look at how the columns are spaced apart in order to aid the functionality of the building, and the you use the beam depth to the advantage by placing columns at large spans. Yeah, because you have a diaphragm beam that is already to be in place in order to encompass the large folds that is there. You can use the beam depth to space the columns at larger spans to help the building. Yeah. Here is, so what you seeing here are student, I should remind you that couple of years back, the final year had these topics to be detailed out by students. Yeah, topics that we take them, they were to be attempted by the students in the projects that they had already worked with. And what you're seeing here is our own students' work, whereby they're using the idea of the folded plate, yeah, to be put to use. Here again, you're seeing here very clearly that's the depth of the diaphragm beam, That's the depth of the diaphragm beam to which the folded plate is being encompassed entirely. And at the end of the because of the depth of the diaphragm beam, I can afford to have the column largely spaced apart with rocker joints. Yeah, rocker joints that are there. This is an amenity, a public amenity whereby you use the folded plate as a pavilion to be placed at a height where the upper levels can be enjoyed by people to enjoy the fold, to sit below the folds below, while the ground is more open for people to walk through it. You can look at the kind of, here the student has taken the initiative on one side to make the diaphragm beam into a gutter, thereby sloping the folded plates in one particular direction to be able to hold on to the water from one end. On the other hand, he's taken the diaphragm beam inward such that the profiles of the folded plate lend identity to the pavilion. Yeah. So it's, if you view the pavilion from this end, you can actually see the folds that lend identity to this facade of the structure. On the other hand, this facade is particularly uh, is a boxed facade where the box gutter is in a position to take the rainwater and things like that. Yeah. Now we're going to see examples. This is an example. These are two examples in Japan whereby, yeah, you can see how the diaphragm beam is offsetted. First of all, in Japan, the traditional idea of working with woodwork, the traditional woodwork is usually accentuated in the brutalist concrete works that is there. And you can look at how the structure at the lower level is accentuated using the idea of beams and trebiated system that Japan is so very proud of. Its vernacular Oriental timber work is reflected in the brutalist concrete work that is there. And but naturally, the first floor, you can see how the folds come out beyond the diaphragm wall. That here, thankfully, the diaphragm wall does not go through the entire fold in order to be able to transfer its load or to give stiffness to the folds. But here, the folds come out beyond the diaphragm wall in order to lend identity to the structure. Yeah, this is a building in this is another building in in Bangkok, yeah, whereby, yeah, government building whereby, yeah, you can look at the extent of the cantilevers that can be seen through the folds. And but naturally the entire exercise has gone in how well the diaphragm beams have been, so to say, um, encompassed, or you can say concealed in some sense that is there. So you can look at the kind of identity, large parasol roof, um, big overhangs, and the kind of brutalist identity that this kind of structural system does lend. Here you can see very clearly, if I'm here at the upper levels, you can very clearly see the idea of a folded plate used to create dormer windows. Yeah, with the idea of with the idea that light and ventilation can work, and each of the fold is used as a precast member in some sense, or is used as a module and not in continuity to be in a position to create dormer-like or knot-like kind windows that works there. Here to the right, you can see very clearly how the folded plate actually works as a flooring system to come out, and I'm but naturally sure there must be a false flow and internal flow in order to be able to take the large cantilever that this structure uh, enjoys. The image below is the um, headquarters for the American Association for Civil Engineers. Yeah, and in Connecticut, and it talks about, and they thought it befitting to have a very structuralist folded plate structure to help, yeah, create their brand identity of structural engineers. Yeah. Another set of drawings whereby you now see folds that are, so but naturally you can have, as you see here, you can see that uh, the folds The folds are not constant all throughout. Yeah, just like you see here, the folds are constant along the entire length. In the American Institute of Civil Engineers, the folds uh, are converging at certain points and expanding at certain points, like you can see here in this plan given here. Yeah, where you can see that folds converge at the ends, thereby allowing you to have the diaphragm beams there and expand along the center. But naturally, you need to work with the folds with a certain slope in be able to drain off rainwater, and it works best in that sense because and, uh, and we've seen numerous students work with origami, yeah, that is folding of paperwork, yeah, to come up with very brilliant forms with regards to conceiving of folded plate structure, and it has worked well. So hands-on origami, and those people for whom origami interests them to work with hand, let me tell you, folded plate structure is something that they should look forward to. Yeah. So here are another set of folds that can be achieved. This is again from the book that I spoke last about by Heinrich Engels, Structural Systems by Heinrich Engels. Heinrich Engels has this knack to be able to draw out plans and cross sections very clearly to be able to create these undulating forms very clearly. You can look at how the alternating forms help in drainage as well as creating interior spaces. Here you can look at how the central ridges are uplifted in order to create slopes on the other ends, and that's how here you can see on inspired from Tagore Hall is a student's work on how he's been able to accommodate the core and the shell. The shell is by way of the folded plate frame, yeah, both as a portal as well as a frame, and the core of the auditorium sits in it on very similar lines to what we have seen, in the at Tagore Hall. Yeah, numerous sports complexes have boast the idea of applying folded plate structure, especially stands. Yeah, large stands. Um, Torajo's work on working with shells and folded plates have been renowned over the world for his large span and greatly appreciated rigid frames with regards to sports complexes that are there in the south of Spain. Yeah, these are again a number of projects, a number of examples. Yeah, worked by Heinrich Engels. Again, he's using the frame, whereby he uses the folded plate both as a walling as well as a roofing system. Here you see it actually works as a large span structure with a ridge created, and these undulations along the walls actually help in being able to drain off water thereby. And not to forget, the minute you use it as a frame and you encompass a rigid frame in the idea of the folded plate, you actually get rid of the idea of the diaphragm beam. So here, when you see the folded plate as a rigid frame, here the idea of the diaphragm beam moves in, and the walling system actually acts as the diaphragm beam, whereby the fold actually comes and gets stiffened or locked into the folds along the wall. Uh, without any, yeah, this is this Tagore Hall and how rigid portals and folded plates have worked to create the entire shell for the auditorium complex, both as a walling as well as a roofing system. Yeah, that you can see this tie beam at the top in some sense actually acts as a stiffener beam. You can look at the stiffener beams that are provided here too in one of these prototypes created by Heinrich Engel in creating a framed folded plate structure. Yeah, yeah. church complex, again on similar lines. You can look at how the idea of a rigid box can be undulated, yeah, in its surfaces, like just that you saw here, very modernist in its idea, rectangular, and yet the idea of the folded plates works best with the idea of the rectangular very clearly. Yeah, the idea of the folded plate and the shell both come together for this gymnasium complex in the south of Spain again. Yeah, and you can look at how the A frame and the rigid frame help in being able to work with, in this case, less of a folded plate and more of a shell. Yeah, all these projects, as you see, are the idea of, this is my very all-time favorite, is this Air Force Chapel in Colorado, which comprises of a hall, of a mess, or not of a mess, of a officers hall below, and a church that is there, that comprises of metal frames onto which the idea of the folded plate. It is actually the expressionist idea of airplanes taking off in the sky, that has been translated into this idea of this folded plate structure representing the representing the chapel. And you can look here at the kind of framework that is put in place to get the kind of folds, and this has been recently, this project has been recently rejuvenated and has been, and is considered as one of as a project to have been conserved. Yeah, and there was the idea of pulling it down till the American government can intervene to say that it is a project that has been looked up under neo expressionism, and yeah, has withstood the test and thankfully has been refurbished. Should you have more interest with regards to both the form as well as the structural system that is there, you can look at the Air Force Chapel at Colorado, and you should be in a position to. Yeah, so folded plates have been able to breach scales. Yeah, uh, Gothic churches. Yeah, could the interiors of Gothic churches have worked with the idea of the rigid frame? Yeah, with the rigid frame and the folded plate in that sense, to create these undulating forms and create scales that are that can keep you at awe, and similarly all kinds of forms. And these are all by Heinrich Engel, who has explored the idea of the folded plate and rigid frame very clearly. This is by Torajo, as I told you earlier, well known for his power, for his sports complexes. Yeah, are large shell come folded plate buildings, A-frames, and tie structures that give you these kind of, yeah. So that's a folded plate in that sense. Yeah, with the right kind of abutment to be in a position to take care of these huge cantilevers. Yeah, uh, well known, that is, yeah, that is there. Sadly, they are in poor shape, and mm, we look forward to them being restored to their original glory. There are photographs of it when they were actually done, when they were actually executed. But yeah, you can imagine sitting in any one of these areas with the kind of overhang these kind of structures can actually have on the very base, and they are very thin by way of cross section. Yeah, you cannot imagine the kind of thickness that these structures work with, and the kind of economy on material by way of the steel that is used. So this is another project by our students of working of using a roofing system to span two very different heights. Yeah, you can see that how the floor beam is used as a diaphragm beam to be able to take the reinforcement of the folds, and thereby, yeah, on either ends, what you see here as these foundations are nothing but, in some sense, anchoring the folds that this entire structure has horizontally. Yeah. the Independent Congregation Church in Saint Louis. Yeah, by yeah, you can have a look at how the the forms. Yeah, so it's so it's a modernist building at its lower levels, a congregation space at the lower level, and the church above, and you can look at the kind of brutalist forms that can come about and at an angle that is there. Yeah, this is the last of the category whereby you get spatial forms. Yeah, by rotating the so to say folded plates along a axis or around a foci. Yeah, and you can have pavilions of that sort. You can look at the kind of cross sections that can be developed, and the kind of oculi on the top, and the folds and the repetition of forms that are there. It would be silly to do a structure in metal, as you see here, considering the kind of symmetry and the kind of economy that you would actually get if you'd actually do this structure that you see here in steel. If you do it in concrete, perhaps you'd use 1/10 of the steel that is used to get this kind of form that is there, actually a folded plated form that is there. This could have been achieved very easily by using concrete with bare minimum steel and minimal thickness of concrete. But that's the kind of mistakes we usually do, considering we don't know both the rigidity that comes through symmetrical forms and the kind of rigidity that comes to the idea of the spatial folded plate. Yeah, yeah, you can see these undulating forms that come out of folded plates. These are some of our students' work again on infrastructure railway station projects that actually comprise uh, of a multiple of folded plates that come together to to form these forms that are there. Yeah, you can see how they punctuate into each other, thereby contributing rigidity to the entire structure. Yeah. Another example, another example of a structure, folded plate frame. Yeah, with the idea of the parametric. Yeah, both this and the project below by Zaadi, the idea of using folded plates in undulating forms. Yeah, using the rigid frame as well as the idea of parametry to be able to create those kind of openings. Yeah, and yeah, we get excited by these ideas of undulating facades, thereby allowing a uh, play of light and openings. And yeah, you can clearly see how the kind of great variety it provides even for urban buildings. Yeah, this is a building in a clear urban setting, and this is Zahadid's project by the Riverside Museum. Again, that works on the idea of the folded plate along the longer span. Yeah, along the longer span, it's part folded plate, part shell. Yeah, in that sense, that has that I thought that I should include as part of the presentation. Vikram, would you like to go ahead with shells? I'm out of breath.
Yeah, Jimmy. काफी marathon sessions चल रहे हैं. Anyway, so just we'll take a pause of 1-2 minutes.
Should there
Jimmy,
be any queries? Yeah, it would be a good idea. Because we are continuing with the idea of the shell and the folded plate. But uh, was there any particular slide, or was there any particular query you had that you thought that you need to relook at, or you need some elaborate explanation? Please let us know so that we can have a nice break in between, as well as before Vikram starts with the ideas of shell. Or we can take up shell next time, as you say, Vikram, if you think this is becoming a little exhaustive.
actually, we thought that we have only 4 or 5, 6 seconds covering topics. उसके बाद we are starting with something new. So
And the number of slides in shells are much lesser. So it's, you know, it's not that it's so extensive. The compilation is so extensive. The folded plate over a period of time, I have kept adding and thereby making the presentation, thereby getting more variety in the idea of the folded plate. I have not been so proactive with shells, so that will save you some. Yeah. Has there been? Does anybody have any query?
Yeah. Sorry.
Who's
Good afternoon, Jimmy. Hi, Nupur here. I actually had a question for the folding plates. I was thinking we do this in concrete, and of course it'll be like the example you showed, Jimmy. It is actually not at we can't shouldn't do it in steel because it actually uses up a lot of steel. It is better to do it in concrete. Is there a possibility that we do this kind of structure in timber probably? Because as concrete, we will be pouring the concrete in one single probably in one single this thing, so it will become one singular structure. But in case of timber, we'll have to put together a lot of pieces of probably engineered wood together and form this kind of structure. So can it be done in timber, or it is not advisable?
So first of all is that the first is the first is the stability of the form. Please understand all symmetrical forms, like the way you see here. All these
Right.
symmetrical forms are structurally stable because of their because of the way they sit together. They more or
Right.
less like an arch action and fit one into the other and thereby tran- transfer the loads in the manner best that is understood, that is there. So symmetrical buildings are considered to be the most stable of buildings in the idea of load transfer and in the idea of by way of stability.
Right.
Now it comes down with what material would you like to work with. Okay. Now I have done I have done a restaurant in a similar format where I did use steel framework to create undulating forms with a central column. It's yeah. So
Right.
it depends upon the kind of criteria that are there. I learned much later that those were the very early days of my practice, and I had a structural engineer who made me understand that yeah, folded plate and the form itself is in some cells very stable and load bearing in its sense. And so
Right.
people do attempt these, attempting them in bamboo, attempting them in timber by way of, if you use CLT, particularly CLT or laminated, but naturally you get the opportunity to break them out to smaller frames, thereby assembly becomes, even this in some sense is very convenient because you put the ring beam on top and then you put these frames supporting on all four sides, that is there.
Right.
But
Yeah.
the same can be done in concrete. If you see our earlier examples of using precast, if you if you so it's not necessary that the entire thing needs to be cast in one go. The entire reinforcement be tied in one go. Brasilia, we have seen some of the greatest of shells that are there, done by Oscar Niemeyer. But
Yeah.
bottom line is that the same can be applied by way of precasting elements and then organizing or putting them together. So either of the materials, the basic principles don't go away, but the kind of saving that you can do by way of material, I think can be best seen in concrete shells because the reinforcement is minimal and so is the depth of the concrete cross section. Vikram, please elaborate in case I missed out on something.
So, principally, all the see when we talk about any structures and all, if we understand the principles, the material is as long as the material is able to handle the principal stresses,
Right.
there is no limitation to it. So
Okay.
now in folded plate, it is not about the material; it is about the fold itself, that which is contributing to it. So how does it contribute? By the first slide which Jimmy showed, which was about the paper folding. Paper, if you can imagine, paper is anyway a cellulose material, so it
Yeah.
is extracted out of wood itself. Now, if you are able to have the similar grains, the wooden grains in the similar direction, and you are able to fold it, in principle, it works. So, now the second, so in principle, in theoretically, it works. Why is it not so popular? That over there we can do some investigation about whether it is whether you have folded plate in CLT or glue laminated timber in the foreign country, in European Scandinavian countries, and whether it can be done replicated in India. So that is, but definitely folded plates is something which is it is a principle. It is not restricted to material per se.
All right. Yeah. Thank you.
So
Vikram had one project with the same concept that they've used glue lamp beams there, I think.
yeah.
To the folded plate.
So we'll wait, pause for some time, and unless there are some more questions before Jimmy joins again for.
Uh, Hi Vikram. In the next slide, it's given that the cost of folded plate is almost similar to a flat slab, but the surface area that gets consumed in a folded plate is more than the surface area in a flat slab. So how is that the like even if the steel is being used less, but due to the surface area, don't you think that the cost will increase?
That is relative. So obviously you are not going to do folded plate for a 9 meter span, or you're not going to do it for a 6 meter span. So we are talking about folded plates where 9 meter span you would do it, provided you have certain aesthetic kind of requirement. But otherwise, normally you do folded plates for spans which are much larger. So industrial sheds having 16 meters and above, 25 meters, 30 meters, 35, 40 meters. So those are the places where folded plates in combination with north light trusses and all. So instead of north light trusses, you can use folded plate. Okay. So the application, airport hangars, yeah, airport terminus, all these large span kind of applications is where is the context within which we are talking about these structures. So please remember, it is large span which makes it viable or not. Now
Yeah.
imagine if large span is done in a flat slab. Now what is the depth of the concrete, and what is the dead weight, and what is the material which goes into it vis-a-vis use of folded plates. Okay.
Huge. A flat slab would go somewhere between 200 mm.
So
Yeah,
for
and
example, Belapur station is it's a combination. There are pockets, so it was the circular cutouts which were there. So there are these waffle slabs, but there are also these solidity which was given. Um, you have it? No, this is
no,
Zui.
this is not this. I'm
No, no.
talking in comparison. In
Ah.
comparison, these
So
are, this is
So
much
now when
light.
you look at Zuinagar, like Belapur, obviously it had multiple stories above, and also there was a requirement of even the building becoming very heavy. It was not a problem. But Kharga station, in contrast, it needed to be lighter. Light needed to come in. They wanted to use lighter material, so the thickness and everything is reduced. So in the for the spans are similar, but yet its application, based on the application, you have used flat slabs, but with pockets which are scooped out to reduce the dead load. And in this case, you're using straight away folded plate because you're not there is no worry about going upper floors for offices or commercial places. Yeah.
What is necessary to be understood is that, have you been able, first of all, is the concept of the folded plate and how it works with the idea of the diaphragm being, in case it acts as a surface element. Yeah, that acts as a surface element. And then how it takes into the idea of a frame and as an envelope, that needs to be understood. And what kind of permutations and combinations in the form that can come about and the kind of variety that can be brought about. And then, but naturally, it's very evident that a folded plate structure brings about a certain character. And should you be comfortable with that character, then how best you can make use of it, and how you ensure that that character, you don't land up hiding the folds behind the diaphragm walls, and how you be able to celebrate if you believe that the folds do contribute to the character or the identity of the building. How are you in a position to take those folds and, yeah, like some of these buildings are known only because of the kind of character that is lent to them because of the kind of folds or because of the kind of character that is set by them. Yeah. So these are identity creators. Other than just having long spans, these are also identity creators because of the very, the kind of the kind of look at this. These are sports infrastructure, but one of a type, and what kind of what identity it sets, largely coming from the structure. So what is structuralism? Structuralism is where the structure of the building creates identity for the building itself. You don't have to rely on cladding and glazing and other envelope systems to create the character or the envelope or the identity of the building. The structural system itself provides character to the building. That's what structuralism is all about. And here you can see fine examples of how the structural system of the building itself lends distinct identity and character to the building. Yeah. Anybody else?
Yeah, Jimmy, this is Druhan.
Yeah.
Um, in my internship, I'd seen the use of deck slab in a building construction. But within the deck slab itself, they had a lot of reinforcements running through anyway. So I'm wondering what was the purpose of having a deck slab uh, as a folded plate if you're already going to be using as much reinforcement.
You're
No, you
talking
need Vikram. Yeah,
you're talking about decking, right?
decking. Yeah, decking.
Okay.
Yeah, they were using it as the floor.
Yeah.
Decking
What's
plate.
that? Yeah.
So decking is a system which has become very popular because of two reasons. One is, of course, with the companies coming up and all that, it's kind of finish that you are looking at, the aesthetics that you are looking at. But more importantly, it eliminates the time which is required for de-shuttering. So it becomes a permanent shuttering. Okay, that is number one. Number two is these do not act as a main reinforcement, because if you recollect, when we studied RCC, there is a reason why the reinforcement is completely surrounded by concrete on all sides and you have a cover concrete, because it is the unity of the material is dependent on the bond which develops between steel and concrete. Now the similar bond doesn't get developed between your track deck, your decking and your concrete. Okay, so though it will give the bottom reinforcement some kind of, you will be able to reduce the amount of steel which is used for your bottom reinforcement. It will never be able to completely replace the reinforcement in the concrete. Okay, so it is augmenting, but largely it is, apart from the augmentation, it is the shuttering, permanent shuttering kind of ability, so that you don't have to wait for de-shuttering immediately. Once the slab is cast, you can start the working underneath. So that time saving and also the finish is what is prompting people more towards these systems. And of course, because you are able to reduce, and it is track deck, it is folded, you are able to reduce the amount of concrete which you otherwise required if you go for a flat, for a slab system.
So I agree with Vikram. Rohan, never was it. I don't think ever it can be portrayed that a decking plate, yeah, decking is a entire, so to say, uh, compensation to a slab. There is always minimal reinforcement, and so there is a major reduction in the reinforcement there is main bars laid in a particular direction with studs that are laid at the bottom of the so to say of the decking in order to get appropriate cover. The amount, as he rightly said, the amount of concrete also is largely underutilized, and but naturally it acts as a great to get away rid. And don't forget that here the cross section of the deck, the decking is bare minimum, thereby contributing to either of these facts. So if you do a comparison between a slab system and a decking system with minimal reinforcement and cut down concrete, there can more or less there can be more or less some comparison that is there. So at no point of time you should imagine that a decking system will be void of reinforcement. Minimal reinforcement, minimum concrete cover. Yeah.
Bro, just to take this case, you are spelling out what was the span of the main reinforcement along the direction of the main reinforcement?
I was around 8 meters.
So if
Huge,
you
no?
look at 8 meters,
Huge
and
it is.
if you don't think of decking system, what is the depth of the slab that you get?
Yeah, it will be a lot more. That's right.
Exactly. So here you're cutting, your decking itself is cutting down on the concrete to a very large extent.
Yes.
Otherwise, the depth of the slab would be more than 200 mm. So your decking is actually, all the upper folds is that amount of concrete that it has replaced in its sense. Yeah, it's like creating a waffle slab or a one-way ribbed slab whereby you have literally reduced onto the concrete in all those cross sections where the decking decks up, right? You get it? And that's why only and minimal reinforcement along where the decking comes down in order to lay the reinforcement in the longer direction or shorter direction, whatever that may be there. So instead there is a saving on concrete big time, thereby by using of decking, and but naturally on the reduction of the on the form work that would have actually go for a ribbed slab in that sense. Yeah.
One more thing is also related to, if you remember in your earlier years, you have been, so there is the requirement of main reinforcement and there is a distribution steel. So the job of distribution steel was, apart from tying up the main reinforcement, it was also to prevent the shrinkage cracks and the additional stresses which come on the top. So if you go only for decking and don't have concrete, the thickness of the concrete, you might develop shrinkage cracks also. So concrete in any form, if you don't have reinforcement, micro reinforcement or distribution steel or something, it tends to have cracks. And even when you have steel, you have micro cracks. So there is, in technical parlance, you have these, in the building codes, the concrete, there is always a specification of what is the maximum micro cracks which are permissible in a concrete. So they might not appear to naked eye, but they are there. Okay. So now those cracks, if you don't address it by introducing certain kind of reinforcement, whether it is micro reinforcement or distribution steel, it will lead to later on it will deteriorate very fast. Okay. So apart from augmentation of main reinforcement, it's also the distribution steel, or it is also called shrinkage reinforcement. Okay, steel for the shrinkages. So those shrinkage cracks, to prevent shrinkage cracks also, you require additional steel. Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Anybody else? We would like to understand from people whether from last two times we've been introducing newer, both I'm sure both folded plate and portals have been newer concepts of structural resolution introduced to you. Do you think they have been helpful in the newer understanding of large span structural systems, or do you think that you were already aware of them and कुछ घिसा पिटा चल रहा है?
Or rather, have you explored it further? Because this was anyway meant for introduction of prompt the discussions. So is there any means, have you started exploring these subjects further so that you learn a little more about it and then bring to the class so that we can we can discuss, deliberate, clarify, whatever. The silence says that once the class is over, then you are you are not this out of sight, out of mind kind of.
Good, no? Then we have typically conventional column beam structural systems that fall to place when when these things don't get imbibed. When structural systems get imbibed, and especially when the structural imbibe comes through, and when the imbibe comes through interest, then you can see then you can see people using it and applying it to their projects in that sense, and that is perhaps what we are hinting towards or looking forward to. Yeah.
So,
You want to
Jimmy,
go ahead?
yeah, I will go ahead and finish this. Yeah, so just go to the previous line. And इसको full screen नहीं है ना, यही है ना?
नहीं, मैं it is in the drive तो
Okay.
डाउनलोड करना है कॉलेज कंप्यूटर
ठीक.
पे वगैरह वगैरह, थोड़ा प्रॉब्लम है.
So, to begin with, these look like very much like inverted walls, or they look like domes, semicircular domes, or anything. Now, between a masonry dome or masonry vault and the RCC shell, do you think there is a difference, or do you think they are the same because they are shaped the same?
These are catenary curves, right, which you are showing right now.
Not necessarily. The second diagram is at the center it's a semicircle. At the outside it is segmental arches. So there is no catenary over here.
Actually the load distribution which is happening. So like in brick, it's a homogeneous structure, but if we consider a cell structure, so in that the like the load distribution is a little different, not
Like what?
different
But
in
when you say the brick is a homogeneous structure, you mean the RCC shell is not a homogeneous structure, or it's the other
no
way
no
around?
not like that, other way.
Okay. So I didn't still get what you're trying to say. Anyone else who wants to attempt? Do you think there is a difference between the two, or they are the same, just the material changes? Structurally, behavior wise, conceptually?
Behavior wise, the concrete will have more strength and like durability rather than the brick, because like
Okay, let me ask you differently. If a certain span of say 4 meters or 5 meters require a depth of 1.5 brick or 2 brick thick, okay, so the volt also will be of that depth itself, right? Uh,
yeah,
so when I construct it in concrete, do I require the same depth or not?
no, not needed.
How much less do I need?
It could be like around 100 or less than that also.
But how do you arrive at that thickness?
Could be the composition of materials. So like in RCC, it's steel and like concrete. So steel is taking
No, sorry, Yadvindra, I have been talking to all the classes, and this is exactly what I don't want to hear, especially in the fifth year. I don't want you to ever speak about steel taking stress in concrete ever. In RCC, it is the bond between concrete and steel which makes the whole reinforced concrete act in unison. There is no separate steel and concrete behaving or acting separately. Okay. So conceptually, we are talking about the reinforcement to be more in terms of steel, where the tensile forces are maximum. That doesn't mean that the bond between concrete and steel is not required. If that was the case, then without the shuttering, without the concrete, we would have been able to dance, and just by pulling these wire meshes and steel meshes, we would have been able to have a stable floor. Okay,
Yeah.
please remember that in the reinforced concrete, it is not steel and concrete separate. It is the reinforcement is having a bond with the concrete, and so the whole material is acting as one. It is acting in unison. Okay, so let's come back to the topic. Basically, shells, if you want to understand concrete shells, you have to compare them not with brick walls or brick arches or domes. You have to compare them with your regular egg shells. Okay. Now, what is the difference? It is the egg. If you look at, it is in a certain direction. It crushes, and in a certain direction, it has a capacity to withstand a tremendous amount of load. Okay. So, but at the same time, it is the thinness of the egg doesn't matter. It is the shape which is giving the strength. Okay, the shape of the dome or shape of the vault or shape of the shell. So that's the reason why it is called concrete shells. Okay, they are not called concrete domes or concrete vaults or something. They are concrete shells. So in principle, you have to imagine them as shells. Now, what is the difference between masonry arches and all? If you remember, masonry arches or masonry walls or domes, they required a keystone at the top. Why was the keystone required? Because, and the keystone was supposed to be very heavy, and it added more weight to the center of the arch or the dome or the dome, right, or the vault. Okay, that keystone together with the mass on top of this brick masonry. So the mass on the means that is solidity or more weight was an essential requirement for the stability of a dome. Okay, the more the weight on the dome, the more stable the dome was. Okay, in masonry structures. If you reduce the weight on the dome, automatically with lateral stresses and all, you found that they cracked very easily. So at least to the base, they were very heavy, but even at the keystone level, you required a certain weight which helped in stabilizing the form. Okay. Now in shell structures, it is because you have reinforcement, you have the shape which is either a semicircular or segmental or catenary curve or whatever curve which is a stable form. You don't have to worry about the dead load in shell structures. It means you don't have to add a dead load to it. So by itself, the stability, because of there is a reinforcement and all that, the concrete and the steel will bond together, and they will act in unison, and you don't have to worry about any keystone or any such the things which were otherwise required for your domes, right? Now over here in these examples, you have conoid shells, which is semicircular over here, but at towards the other end it is flat. You have square dome shells. Yeah, so the base is a square, but otherwise from the square you are able to emerge a shell or a curved surface out of it. You have hyperboloid. Now what is a hyperboloid? There is one curvature which is going downwards, but in the other direction the curvature can you see my cursor over here? Hello? Is my cursor seen on this?
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, who's sharing the screen? I think Jimmy is sharing the screen. No?
Jimmy is sharing the screen, but my cursor is my cursor. Are you able to see my cursor?
Yes.
Yeah, we can see the cursor
Yeah.
moving.
I'm hovering around these hyperboloids.
No, we can't see.
No, cursor is first page of the like how it's in the center of the
No,
page.
Jimmy's cursor, you're able to see that. It's not my cursor.
Yeah,
Anyway,
because
so
Jimmy is sharing.
yeah. So if you look at the hyperboloid of revolution, you will see there is a curvature which is moving, means which is going from in the shorter direction it is going downwards, but in the longer direction it is going upwards. Okay. So there are two curved surface acting opposite to each other. Okay, in x-axis it is downward movement, and in y-axis it is going upward movement. Now this leads to something called as a anticline surfaces. Okay, so there are we'll come to that in other presentation, but this hyperboloids help in giving immense stability to a structure. These opposite kind of curvatures that gives immense stability to shells. Okay. Then you have barrel vault shells, which are very simple to understand. Yeah. Jimmy, next. Yeah. So if you extrude these, you will have various and also there are these stress diagrams which are noted over here. So if you look at what are the in a barrel vault, what is the kind of reinforcement that you require it along the curvature, and you need to tie them together. So there is a stress which is coming at the base, it is coming in the other direction also, right? So now, where would you keep your cutouts, openings is something that needs to be very, very carefully calibrated when you're working with concrete shells. Yeah. Uh, Next, Jimmy. Yeah. Now, when we look at a combination of rigid frames or portals and the shells, like the shells cannot go continuously without having stiffeners or because it has a limitation. It is able to span in one direction, but in the other direction you still require a structural system which will be able to hold the shells together. So in the first diagram you see a rib portal which is which comes at equal intervals, and in between the slab design, instead of a regular flat slab, it is designed as a shell structure, right? Or you have barrel vaulted kind of structural systems where your to avoid the secondary beams and all, you are able to use the shells, and the amount of concrete and everything that gets reduced, and you have a shape like that. Uh, at the construction joint or the expansion joint, where because these are large structures, you have to, whether it is folded plates, barrel vaults, concrete shells, any structure, please keep in mind that if the building is too long or if it is too wide, that is the expanse of the building is too wide, you will come across seismic joints or construction joints or expansion joints. So either of the three will be required. Of course, depending on the technology you're using, material you're using, it may vary from 30 meters to as much as 70 meters, 80 meters. But at some intervals, you will have these expansion joints. Now, these are the joints which are vulnerable. These are the joints which are vulnerable, and they require a special treatment in forms of flashing, which you see over here. Both in all the three diagrams show these flashings. These are very critical, and please do not ignore them. And if you make some generic drawings and you are questioned where if such a huge building, where is the expansion joint, you should be able to articulate that also, right? That is one. And then there are these edge conditions which are there. So in the edge, the shells can have a valley, plain valley, where the beam is not visible, or you have a beam which is prominently visible. or you have a upturn, particularly at the corners where the water can be come off and can form a gutter also, or it can have upturn as well as downturn beam, where with the gutter at the periphery. So from the sides you don't feel the presence of the shell itself, right? The next diagram is about another uh, you know the various ways in which these shell structures can come up. Okay, now this is a shell where you have a skylight. Now since it is an incomplete shell, the barrel vault is cut and you are accommodating a skylight, north light, or north light truss or anything. So instead of north light truss, you have a shell with a north light incorporated within that. Now in this case, look at the way the head of the north light is. Look at the way the valley of this north light is, where there is a gutter accommodated and the beam is deeper, so that you are able to accommodate the bottom reinforcement. Then there is there's supposed to be vertical, horizontal, the diagonal columns or stub columns, not stub columns. Sorry, they are intermittent. At every 3 meters, they come, which tie the bottom beam to the top head. Okay, so these vertical is supposed to be there, so that it becomes one single unit and they are not acting separately. Okay, so the glass is not coming and fixing onto something which is void over there, right? So there is a member which goes and connects the two over there. And on the head also, look at the thickness which is there, and the drip molds which are there, the waterproofing which has come above. So all of this also becomes an important part. Now, of course, there is a little bit of stress. This is student work, so there is a problem which is also over here, where the head meets the shell. Over there should be a little bit of more flare. Otherwise, this is going to fracture at that junction between the head and the shell. Yeah, but considering all that, all the details and all are fairly detailed out, labeled. Everything is presented very neatly over here. Yeah, Jimmy, next. Yeah, so if you look at these structures, um, the the shells, above the shells you had the problem is also about, because shells are very thin, they gain a lot of heat. Okay, and apart from gaining of heat, they are vulnerable, like uh, I showed, no, for master students I showed. So I was working on this site in IIT where there was a shell roof, and we, after doing the test, we wanted to conserve it, but after doing the test, we realized that the strength of the concrete was had reduced to almost M6. Okay, which was, if it, even if it was M10, we would have still retained it, but it was M6, and that's why we had to take a decision of pulling it down. But what led the kind of corrosion in a span of, there was a building of hardly 1985, so in a span of about 30-35 years, it had corroded to such a level, and the concrete also had deteriorated to such an extent that it was impossible to restore it. Okay, so shells, because of its thickness and in the temperature differences and all, most of these shells got constructed in the 60s and right up to the 80s, but they didn't continue with their popularity with the advancement in the other materials like steel, because in the steel industry also grew tremendously, and they were able to give the same shapes, and the assembly was faster, the quickness was better, the finishes were better, and the longevity was much better assured. Maintenance was also not an issue. So that's where the concrete shells took a backlash. But with the advancement of micro concrete today and the kind of steel, carbon steel or carbon fibers which is coming up, it looks a very promising field. So all the failures which were associated with the older steel and concrete, they are being they are being revamped. The materials which are coming up in form of stainless steel or carbon fibers, is allowing you tremendous possibility. The concrete also, there is a lot of advancement, the high strength concrete, micro concrete, it is allowing tremendous possibilities. So we do anticipate that whatever we were not seeing, the kind of architecture that we were not seeing for almost 30-40 years, the last we were seeing in the 60s and 70s, there is a possibility of reviving, means, or not reviving, but seeing those kind of forms in new ways with these newer materials. Yeah. Next, Jimmy. Yeah. So there are these other shapes and forms from circles. So how one shell extends, you can couple multiple shells together to form a one single space, or you can have larger spans and open out the peripheries, and how the shells can reduce to point stresses, point loads at the ground level. But in all these cases, if you look at the ground level, you have these ring beams which tie all these members together, all these points together, so that these spread stresses are, they are contained. You are able to hold them. So there is a ring beam. So the foundations of these shells become extremely important. So what you see on the top is what the shell is giving the shape, but all the hogging stresses or flattening stresses will be at the base. Okay, so without the ring beam, without the ring beam in the foundation, these bolts or these shell structures will not survive. Yeah. Next, Jimmy scroll down. Then you have these catenaries, which are extremely, is sorry, Gaudi made them very popular. So basically, they are chains which are suspended, and the shape which you achieve by suspended, you just invert that shape. And Gaudi found out that those were much stable forms, and they were able to give tremendous heights. So shells also use these geometries quite a lot, and they inherently they are very strong kind of shapes. Yeah. Then you have these again synclatic and anticlactic surfaces which come together. You have a similar building. The Lotus petrol pump is also there in your Lokhandwala. Of course, it is a poor cousin of many of these structures. It's a smaller cousin of many of these structures, but idea remains the same. You have these funicular kind of geometries, the shells, and they are held together by other anticlastic surfaces in the other direction. Yeah. Next. Yeah. So this is basically how your hyperbolic paraboloid forms. So if you take a square and you have these members, and you just uh, push two of these points, the diagonally opposite points on top, and the other two diagonals on the bottom, you get a curve geometry. Now this is very useful for multiple reasons, not just structurally, but even from construction point of view, uh, which otherwise seem to be almost, you start wondering कि इसका geometry shuttering कैसे बांधना है, कैसे करना है वगैरह. This kind of shapes, these kind of geometries help in setting out many of these hyperbolic paraboloids. So they essentially, if you look at it, all the lines are straight lines. It is just by the twist of it that the curved geometry is achieved. So what we feel of the geometries ki curve geometry kaise arrange karne ka, the curve geometry has to be shaped in that manner. It's not necessary. Many a times your straight geometries itself, uh, if you use it mathematically, you are able to convert them into curve geometries. So this is an example of that for hyperbolic paraboloids. Yeah. Then there are some more examples of how these surface geometries are developed using lines. Um, and yeah, that's about it for today, I believe. Jimmy, anything that you want to add on this? Jimmy, you're on mute.
Oh, perfectly well. You've always been good at it. If you want, I can stop presenting other than
Yeah.
if there are any queries. If there are any particular queries with regards to the presentation, then otherwise I can stop presenting. Otherwise, you've covered more or less things that you've always been good at this particular part of the topic. Cells have never taken me by, though I'd like to see some of Felix Candela's and Mimer's work in Brasilia. What if we both go together like last year, like in 2019, where we roamed extensively? Could be some fun.
Jimmy, you'll need to be a little more audible. Trail हो रहा है.
Hello. So I wish it's covered well. It was always your foray to cover shells well. Though I would love to visit some of these places with Oscar Niemeyer and Felix Candela's work. What best if we could go together, like in 2019. But whatsoever, I think it's covered well. Should there be any queries with regards to shells, till then I can present. Otherwise, I'll stop presenting and we can interact 1:1.
So what we do expect, because see, you may have realized that we are taking these topics quickly. We are not delving on it for very long. In the earlier classes, when we used to do the whole semester, we used to spread these topics across the whole semester. But we realized that it doesn't make sense, particularly when our interest is exploring technology beyond these topics. Okay, and many of you may be interested, many of you, so we want you to utilize these as starting points of your further explorations. Yeah, and subsequently, if time permits, we can have so whatever queries you have uh, in our slot itself, in this slot itself, we can address all those queries. But we expect you to do some reading, research. As you go along, you will come across many geometries, and we want to keep a separate time also to address some of the issues commonly. Yeah. So yes, and subsequent classes, if there are certain details that we feel that we can take it up for the whole class, we'll definitely try to do that.
Are there any queries? There's something in the chat box. There is that. Also, the thickness of flat slab. I think that's way earlier. It's now 3 o'clock and 8 minutes. Yes. Anybody? Anything in particular would like to? Could you please go full screen while presenting? Yeah. Holy cow. No wonder. Okay. Anything in particular? Can I stop the recording for the day?
Yeah.